Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, Transformers fans everywhere, welcome back. LPS Last Prime Speculator, here to bring you another episode of the Redemption series as always. Guys, thank you so much for voting on Twitter and Instagram. The winner, and it was a close one, is the origins of Optimus Prime. I left it up to you guys to decide which video was coming next. And to tell you the truth, I'm very glad you guys chose this one. We're going to learn about the live origins of Optimus Prime, the Prophesied Warrior King, the Prophesied 13th. If you're not familiar with the Redemption channel, the Redemption series focuses on plots, events, characters, events, and times in the live-action universe of the Transformers origins that were never explained. They didn't touch on it, so I created this channel to explain this little web series I'm doing. So let's get right to it. In Transformers 1, we learn the opening starts with Optimus Prime. We actually get to hear the legendary voice of Peter Cullen, and he explains about the Cube, the Allspark, where it came from, and if its existence. It touches on that it has the powers to create life. They not know where it comes from, but that is the actual life spark of the Transformers race. And come to find out, it crash lands on Earth. And this was the artifact that Megatron was in pursuit of trying to look. If you're not familiar with it, I did an origins on Megatron. Make sure to check it out. And this is what led to the humans and Transformers meeting. Now, in the comic books and everything, it touched about Bumblebee being on Earth. We know that Bumblebee was the guardian of Sam Witwicky. Bumblebee actually portrayed in the comic books. He let Optimus Prime know that the Allspark was located on Earth, and the location was actually from the glasses. We'll get to that in just a sec. The Autobots coming down to Earth, making their entrance known, coming down from the heavens, and they come in their Cybertronian form. And I think Michael Bay did this very well. We get to see what they look like before they take their vehicle mode. We see the actual true Cybertronian. And at the very end, we get to see Optimus Prime take his semi-truck mode, which I was so pumped to see. Now, what's even better is when they all come. We hear Steve Jablowski's intro, the beat, the Autobot entrance. We see Ratchet, we see Jazz, we see Iron Knight, we see Bumblebee, we see the 13th Prophesied Warrior King, the 13th Prime, Optimus Prime. When he transformed, my God, it gave me the chills. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I waited so long to see it, and then when I finally heard him spoke, he reveals to Sam, "Are you Samuel Witwicky, descendant of Archibald Witwicky?" Sam replies, "Yes." He's like, "My name is Optimus Prime. We are an organic lifespan, or Cybertronian race," whatever he said, I'm paraphrasing. And he basically explained why he's here. And he was here to locate the Allspark, to find the glasses from Sam Witwicky. He actually earned this through the World Wide Web on eBay. And then Sam's like, "Where'd you guys learn your language from?" And he said, "The World Wide Web." That was a really cool little plot thing that Michael Bay touched on that was very, very good. And basically, that's how they learned our language, was from our technology, right? Now, once he meets Sam, he explains what happened on Cybertron and what led him to this point of coming to Earth. We know what happened. The Autobots versus Decepticons created the Civil War. Megatron betrayed the Autobots, and then the whole war started. And then that's why they are now here, because he is locating the Allspark. He was planning on using his technology to, our technology to create the new life force and his new army for the Decepticon race. In a way, save also Cybertron, but he was going to use the Earth technology to create his new war and his new empire. Optimus Prime did not want that to happen to the humans. His whole goal is that the humans should not suffer for their mistakes, as in the Autobots, right? What was really cool about this is that we also finally got the intro of Agent Simmons in Sector 7. And long story short, Agent Simmons basically takes Michaela and Sam Witwicky back to their base. He's planning on transferring back, but then on the way there, Optimus Prime stops him and says taking the children was a bad mistake. And what's even more ironic about it is that when he was looking at the human race at the Sector 7, according to him, they weren't surprised to see him. They weren't scared, and that was very shocking to Optimus Prime. We got to see the personality and the character develop of Optimus Prime. Once we learn about Sector 7, right, we know Bumblebee gets captured, and Optimus Prime says it's worth the sacrifice. Basically, the humans should not suffer for their mistakes, and also he had hope for the humans. He's seen the goodness in the human race, which is a great thing about Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots, is that he does not believe we should suffer for their mistakes in Cybertron. So he comes to find out where the location of Sector 7 is, and obviously we know that they got to find it before the Decepticons find it. The Decepticons ended up finding the the location, and we see Megatron reborn. Once we learn that the Hoover Dam was actually protecting the actual Allspark as well as Megatron, right? The Decepticons come and actually revive their master. They actually hack in the system, they turn off the whole temperature gauge, and Megatron is reborn. The humans actually escape with the Allspark into Mission City, right? And that was the whole goal, and Lennox's team knew at this time what the Decepticons were capable of. So they escape with the city of the Allspark in Mission City, and then we get to see the first highway chase, which is actually shot in Detroit. Shout out to Detroit, Michigan's my hometown. And then we see Optimus Prime battling Bone Crusher, which was absolutely amazing. We finally got to see the Decepticons and Autobots fight. Bone Crusher comes down the highways chasing with a giant speared dagger in a way. Right, Optimus Prime tackles Optimus Prime. And what I even love more about this is that once they were battling and did all that, you see Optimus Prime hiding behind that post, and then he comes and grabs with his knife and then just stabs him right in the throat. And then that was the first time we got to see the ruthlessness of Optimus Prime, which was very shocking. I'm a fan of it, but that was extremely shocking. Usually Optimus Prime tries to settle with democracy before violence. In this one, we got to see a little bit glimpse of what's to come of the last Prime, how ruthless he can be when justice is not served, right? Now, once they're in Mission City, all hell's breaking loose. The final battle's taking place, and Optimus Prime reveals to Sam that basically, if this does not work, you have to place the Allspark in my chest. If I cannot defeat Megatron, I cannot risk the human suffering, and I'm willing to sacrifice myself. That was an absolute awesome and epic sign of the leadership of the Prophesied King, known as the last Prime, Optimus Prime. He is willing to sacrifice himself for the good, and that's why I love Optimus so much, is that he will do anything to protect people at all costs, and that includes taking his own spark. So we know what happens to Transformers when we see Megatron go against Optimus, and Megatron is completely dominating Optimus, which I was a little disappointed about, but I get it. And fast forward, Sam is being chased by Megatron, right? Optimus Prime's kind of beat up and everything, and at the very end, once everything was about to take place, Optimus Prime is begging Sam to put the Allspark in the cube in his chest, and Sam courageously grabs the cube and places it into Megatron's chest. And what was even cool is after the death of Megatron, we hear Optimus Prime says, "You left me no choice, brother." Hold that thought. That was the first one, and then at the very end, we see Optimus Prime send a message out to all Autobots. We are here on Earth. We are waiting pretty much an entrance to come to Earth, that we're all here together. And under my leadership, Earth is going to be our new planet and our new home. Now let's move over to Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen. This was a opening of, we got to see the warrior side of Optimus, right? I felt like in the first movie, Optimus was still trying to figure out his Cybertronian form, taking his new alt mode. And Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, that was not the case. So, we know how the movie starts, right? We know that the Autobots are working with this special units team of the UK and the United States forces called NEST, where they travel all over the globe and search for their Decepticon foes. And he talks about it's a brave squad. So they end up in, I believe it was also Shanghai, if I'm not mistaken. And they're hunting, you know, Decepticons, right? Now all hell breaks loose. The Decepticons end up escaping, right? And then we see this airplane coming, and then we hear the trumpets go. We see the truck of Optimus Prime, and the lights light up, and the music starts to build up. And then we see him pull out, and then it just gets so triumphant, so heroic. And he comes out and transforms, and he pulls out in these parachutes, and he says, "Autobots, I'm in pursuit." We see him come down the angle, right? And this is where he's taken on Demolisher. Then we see him, and we see his heroic and warrior side. He takes on Demolisher in Shanghai and says, "Pull over," and this thing is absolutely enormous. Pops him in the face, and he rolls down, and everything's getting destroyed. And Iron Knight and Optimus walk up to him and say, "Any last words?" And Demolisher says, "This is not your planet to rule. The fallen shall rise again." And Optimus Prime, ruthless as ever, says, "Not today," and caps him and basically demolishes him, kills him instantly. It was so epic, right? Now, we also learn about the shard. There's a piece of the sliver of the cube called a shard that was actually located and being held under United States control at Diego Garcia, which is a secret operation base where they were basically the Autobots agreed to keep the shard in human possession. Well, Soundwave ends up finding the location from our own satellites and says, "Decepticons, we have located the shard." The Decepticons end up raiding Diego Garcia and grab the shard, which ended up leading to the retrieval and the awakening again of Megatron in his new body. Now, this is where everything really gets interesting. We finally see Megatron fly up into the Nemesis ship, where his leader, the Fallen, is now being in command, which is Megatron's boss. The Fallen was one of the original Primes, one of Optimus's ancestors. Now, his whole goal was to retrieve the Matrix of Leadership. He educates his mentor, or his student, Megatron, about the Allspark having the ability to transform. That basically the Matrix of Leadership, which should be back anyway. I'm surprised it's not, because that's Transformers in my book. But the Matrix of Leadership is the most powerful artifact of the Transformers race, which it is. And with this artifact, it could do more than just create life. It can restore suns, drain energy. That this literally is the spark and the blood source that is inside of the Cybertronian race, which is the Matrix of Leadership. Now, once he learns of all this, right, they basically said the only way that the Fallen can be defeated, and he educates Megatron on this, is by a Prime. There's only one Prime left, which is Optimus Prime. The Fallen lets Megatron know that if you defeat Optimus, the only Prime left, nothing can defeat me. Only a Prime can kill him. That's when we witness Sam being captured. Then we witness the Bumblebee and Optimus coming in this little factory where they were going to basically insect the brain. They needed the codes and the language of the Primes through his mind and his knowledge, right? Basically, they needed his brain to find the location of where the Star Harvest and this Matrix of Leadership and the Tomb of the Primes were located at. We see the forest fight. We see one of my favorite parts in the live action universe. We see Optimus take on Starscream, Megatron, and Grindor, and we see the heroic and warrior side of the Prophesied 13th Prime, and he takes them all on, right? He's in the very beginning, he's kind of getting his behind kicked, but his whole goal was to protect Sam. When he flies up and does the poof and spits out his tooth, and Megatron said, "Is this human worth saving our own race?" And that's when Optimus pulls out both of his swords. "You'll never stop at one. I'll take you all on." And he certainly does. He takes them all on. We get to see how Optimus, under a time of darkness, can rise up in the occasion, right? We all know what happens. He ends up losing his life. Megatron takes a cheap shot at him when he's looking for Sam after his battle, and again, his love for the humans gets in the way with actually the real event, and that's when Megatron refers to, "You're so weak." He ends up dying, right? Now, that's when we meet Jetfire, and Jetfire educates Agent Simmons, Michaela, and Sam Witwicky, and the twins in Bumblebee of their ancestors, the Primes, the 7 Primes, the ones that the Fallen betrayed, his brothers. They ended up sacrificing themselves and placing a tomb of their very own flesh to make sure that the human race and Earth would not suffer for their sins and what they were trying to do, which is basically restore energon from the suns, right? So, once they find that out, Sam actually locates the Matrix, and it turns into pure dust, right? Long story short, we fast forward, Sam ends up going in, maybe he wasn't, I wouldn't say he was dead, but he was in some sort of heaven state, which when we finally get to see the Primes, we get to see the actual 7 Primes, and they come up with that deep and passionate and wise voice. "You have fought for Optimus, our last descendant, with courage and honor. The Matrix of Leadership is not given, it's earned." And Sam earned the right to have the Matrix of Leadership passed to him, and that's when that dust transformed, and he used the Matrix of Leadership to put in the spark of Optimus Prime's chest. Now, once he did that, Optimus was actually still weak. He was still weak from the battle before, and that's when Jetfire witnesses an actual Prime, something that he betrayed before his journey. You saw his passion and his honor to be in presence of an actual Prime, that he sacrifices his own spark and gives Optimus a power that he will never know. And that's when Ratchet, Jolt, and all the Autobots form together and give Optimus his upgrade. That's when we see the Jetpack mode. I call his upgrade the Prime package, okay? Once he was upgraded, he was bigger, stronger, faster, he could fly. And then that's when we see the battle between the Fallen, Optimus, and Megatron. Once Optimus flies up, he grabs the new upgraded gun that he's got on his jetpack and blasts the Star Harvest out. No longer active and capable of taking the energy sun. Not only that, we get to see him fight in this new upgrade. He fights the Fallen, and he fights Megatron and completely owns them. Absolutely dominates him with this new jetpack. He goes and blasts Megatron right in the face, and Megatron ends up flying, and he ends up using that giant sword that I love so much. right on the face of the Fallen. And then the Fallen kind of ends up fighting back, and then that's when we see the even angrier side of Optimus come out, where basically he ends up owning him, grabs his spark, squishes it, and says, "You picked the wrong planet. I rise, you fall." And then grips and squishes the spark of the Fallen. And then we see Optimus Prime thanking Sam for saving his life. Now let's fast forward to Transformers 3 Dark of the Moon, and we know that the Autobots are still working together. We see Optimus actually in Chernobyl working with Ness, and that's when he finds out of this little artifact from an ancient Autobot ship known as the Ark, right? He finds out that the Autobots have been here before, and he is a little upset being that he feels that he was lied to. That's when we also witness the Driller, and we also witness the entrance of Shockwave, which I believe I was actually very disappointed. Like, he looked so rowdy in this, but he was completely underused. We'll get to that in a sec. Once they locate this little artifact from this ancient Autobot ship, they come to the witness and know of the Ark and his master, his leader, Sentinel Prime, which was the teacher of Optimus, right? And he explains to the humans about these pillars that basically that Sentinel can control and operate with him alone, and that this was an ancient Autobot technology that would have won them the war and basically saved their planet. And that's when we get to witness him find his leader, Sentinel Prime, along with the pillars. The pillars came all up. He ends up taking Sentinel back to Nest, right? And using the Matrix of Leadership from Revenge of the Fallen to restore his leader, Sentinel Prime. Once Sentinel is restored, Optimus is willing to give Sentinel Prime the Matrix of Leadership, saying that he led the war back in Cybertron, how things might have been differently if he was actually in command instead of escaped and bandit on the Ark, which we come to find out landed on our moon. Sentinel declines the Matrix of Leadership and says Optimus is no longer his student. Optimus will be his teacher, knowing that he is uneducated of the planet known as Earth. They find out that Sentinel Prime is the key to what the Decepticons' plan is on Earth, and that is to restore Cybertron and bring him back to Earth. So at this time, we think Sentinel is actually pro-Autobot. We come to find out he actually betrays his Autobot brothers, where he actually assassinates Iron Knight, which is a huge, huge, huge shocker. Very disappointed that Iron Knight went out like that. That the Autobots were never going to win the war. So to save their planet, he actually signed a contract or signed some sort of dedication with Megatron, an alliance. That's when we see Washington, D.C. happen. The Autobots, led by Optimus Prime, go to Washington, D.C., and we see all these Decepticons coming out and basically being transported from the moon to Washington, D.C. through this pillar and activation system that Sentinel has. And that's when Optimus says, you know, it's our job to defend the humans. And Sentinel says, you know, basically over time you'll understand, Optimus, and you're lucky I didn't kill you. That's when we learned about also Dylan, fast forward, that the humans have been working for the Decepticons for a long time. That's why the NASA program is completely squashed, to basically stop them from knowing of the existence of one, the Ark, and two, the pillars on the dark side of the moon. NASA program is squashed. They end up killing all these humans. Now, this little contract that is done is basically set up where the Decepticons and Sentinel are willing to negotiate, but the Autobots must leave Earth. That's when we meet the Wreckers, and we see the Xanthium, which is an Autobot ship that basically was used to transport Autobots to wherever they would like to go. Now, the humans, being in a desperate point of need, convince the Autobots to leave Earth, and Optimus, again, we see witness his leadership questions, and basically he has failed Earth and the humans, and maybe that they are right. Maybe I am the problem. So once the Autobots are convinced to leave, we see Optimus letting them know that you are my friend. You have to convince them that this is wrong, but that they're not going to be bringing reinforcements. Nothing's going to come. The Autobots are literally done. The Xanthium flies out, and Starscream does a sneak attack and destroys the Xanthium. We thought it was done. Now fast forward to the Battle of Chicago. Epps and Sam are led by a team to basically go resurrect Carly. Epps actually decides to side with Sam, being that they killed his friends, the Wreckers, right? They can't get into the city. Chicago is completely in a war zone and completely under lockdown. There's nothing, there's no entrance, no way in, no way out. We see jets flying in. They're destroying it and dismantling before it even gets close to the city. That's when we see Optimus Prime come in with vengeance, say, we will kill them all. He makes this inspirational speech and said we had to have them believe that we were gone, for on this day we bring the fight and the battle to them. We witnessed the Battle of Chicago, and it's an epic one. Now, one of my favorite parts in this battle scene is when we finally get to see the Driller. We see Optimus gaining his jetpack mode, and Chernobyl, he had his actual old G1 looking kit where he had all these weapons and activation gears to give him upgrades, ability to fight. Well, he's flying down, and we see him come right into the driller, and we see him looking so sick and so heroic and such a badass, where he comes up, blows through, flies in, and basically say destroying the driller, right? And comes down, flies up, and ends up getting exploded by Shockwave, who puts a shot on him, and he gets tangled up again. Optimus tends to disappear at times, and once fast forward everything, basically the Autobots are all being held captive, and out of nowhere, the prophesied 13th Prime comes again from the heavens in his jetpack boat, and we see the witness of Prime Rage, which is probably number 2 in the most epic Optimus scenes in LPS's book. We see him take on everyone, destroy everybody at will, and he actually ends up destroying the pillar that destroys Cybertron. We see it literally unfold. We see then after him battle his master, Sentinel Prime. And Sentinel Prime is literally owning Optimus, and Optimus at one point is begging for his life, which I couldn't stand, by the way. And then the hero of Megatron saves Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime then ends up killing Sentinel, and then right after, killing Megatron, and then basically telling Sentinel that he betrayed himself and that this is all on him. Optimus ends up killing Sentinel Prime. And at the very end, Dark of the Moon, we thought it was over. We see Optimus with one arm all courageously, and again, we see the heroic leader known as Optimus Prime. Now let's move on to Transformers Age of Extinction. I was actually somewhat of a fan of certain parts of this film. We see a new Optimus, an angry, a vengeful, in a way hating his spark for the human race in this live-action universe. We actually see the warrior side, but we see the personality, evil side of Optimus. It starts out where Cade Yeager is shopping for junk. He was an inventor. Cade Yeager would take junk, restore it, and make money. His whole goal was to get his daughter through college. He ends up coming in this theater of a truck, an old beat-up truck with bullet holes everywhere, and he goes, "How much for the truck?" He decides to use his mechanical skills, his inventor skills, and he's planning on taking this truck apart and building it for whatever. Cade comes to find out that this is not your average truck. It's not your average metal. When he opens the door, we see the bullets fly down. We see the mortar shells. We see the bullet holes. We see the dust. I need you to witness this. This isn't your typical metal. So when he grabs a spark, he puts it. We hear the famous voice calling all Autobots, and it's shaking. He's like, "I think I just found a Transformer," which was probably one of my favorite human quotes in the entire movie. That was epic as hell. Optimus transforms once he actually gets the spark and basically is beat up and basically saying he's going to kill the humans, because the humans are now attacking the Autobots. The rules have changed in Transformers 4. And once he finds this out, he is beat to hell. We see his crown fall on the ground, and you see the green energy coming out of him, and he feels guilty. He's like, "I have to go. My Autobots need me. They're being assassinated." And Cade convinces him, "How about you let me repair you?" And that's when we see the bond between Optimus Prime and Cade Yeager in this movie, right? We come to find out that Optimus is being sold out. Not just all Autobots, Decepticons, the humans are hunting the Transformers for this secret operation unit called Cemetery Wind, led by Henry Allinger. He has this alliance with KSI, with Joshua Joy. So basically they are planning to build Transformers and use their technology to, in a way, create a profit. Joshua Joyce, in a way, does want to make the world a better place, but he actually figures out the code of the Transformium. But the problem is they're running low on Transformer metal. They're taking all the scraps left from Battle of Chicago and using it to create their own Transformers. Well, that's when we learn about Cemetery Wind's secret alliance with the bounty hunter known as Lockdown. Lockdown was sent by his creators, which we're assuming are the ships in the very beginning of Age of Extinction. And the rule is that Lockdown would provide the seed, which would give the human race their Transformium needed for one deal. One prime for one seed. Optimus, we come to find out, has more of an origins in the live-action universe than just the previous 3 with Shia LaBeouf. We learn that he was at one point a knight. Now, once the Battle of Galvatron and Optimus take place, and Optimus is completely owning Galvatron, in my opinion, we see Lockdown, right? We see Lockdown come and basically use I'm assuming, his stun grenade and transforms his face into a gun, which Lockdown was a ruthless character. When Optimus gets stunned and he gets captured, we learn about Optimus's knight origins. Lockdown brings Optimus into his old ship, and he basically educates him through a history that Optimus cannot remember from, again, the Shia LaBeouf series. He said, "You remember this ship, Prime, built for all you knights, you great crusaders, used to explore the galaxies?" He is acknowledging to Optimus, this was once his ship. He would use this ship to travel the galaxies, to explore life, creations, and spread the word of peace. We find out he's basically one of the Knights of Cybertron, right, which are a legend in the Transformers, right? Drift was actually a big fan of him in the comic books. Now, once he's captured, Lockdown educates that now this is his ship and he commandeered it, and this is his personal prison now. And that's when we witness the Dinobots. When he's being dragged in there, that connection with Grimlock and Optimus. The first time we get to see Grimlock, we see Grimlock's red eyes, and the way he's looking at Optimus is a way of disgust, of anger. Almost he knows him, and Optimus in a way is absorbing his knight ship, almost regaining his memory in a way of his knight origins through what Lockdown was explaining. And basically he said, the creators want to wipe their chessboard clean. Lockdown explains that Optimus is the key for them to wipe their chessboard clean, wipe their whole fix, that literally the last Prime is not only a Prime, is a knight. So we learned there's a history even before he became a Prime. He was a Knight of Cybertron, right? Now, once he is being held captured, the Autobots actually take over the ship. They release Optimus Prime, right? Optimus then, after being rescued, educates Cade about how you can see the disgust and the hatred in his heart with the human race. He is absolutely disgusted with them, and he educates them about Earth. And the creators were here, and that they would use these seeds and spread them around the galaxies to create them. Now, I honestly thought in that movie, he was figuring out his path. When he was on the ship, it was almost like the ship was becoming one with Optimus, and he was regaining his own conscience, right? We find out that the Autobots decide to retrieve the seed to help the humans, and then they're done. Well, once they get to Hong Kong, Galvatron ends up taking over the KSI lab in China, and then we witness the Battle of Hong Kong. Now, this was probably one of my also all-time favorite scenes. I probably will admit this is probably my favorite Optimus Prime scene, is that we witness the Legend of the Sword. Crosshairs and Drip are convincing Optimus, man, this is not our fight. We're done fighting the humans. You know, being a underdog sucks. What's the play, Prime? And he goes, it's time for reinforcements. He walks up to his ship, and then the music of Steve Jobs kicks in, and he goes, recognize one of your knights. And he grabs the sword, and when he grabs the sword, you could see his armor change. He takes his knight form, and when he grabs the sword, he looks at it, and when he's looking at it, it's almost like he's remembering his old dark origins, and he's willing, in my opinion, is willing to sacrifice himself. He knows what's happened to him if he takes this sword, being his feeling, his spark towards the human race right now. Being the Prophesied 13, he takes this sword and, in my opinion, knows his well-being and what's to come of Optimus Prime. And then that's when he runs up and unleashes the Dinobots. And then that's when I heard the legend exists. That's when we witness it. In my opinion, that means the legend is true, whether that's the legends of Quintessence, his origins, or that he literally is the true legend in the actual prophesied king, the one that the Primes always talked about in the legends. Any of those, but it was extremely epic, and it was an extremely different type of language. It felt very ancient. Optimus then leads the Autobots with his new alliance with the Dinobots, and he rides on Grimlock and charges into battle with so much anger and so much passion, right? And we see the Battle of Hong Kong, right? We see what happens, that the Dinobots come for reinforcements and end up saving his Autobots, right? Lockdown returns only to find, knowing that Optimus has escaped and his trophies have escaped, but particularly he needs the last Prime. That is his goal. So we don't know the negotiation between the creators, but apparently Optimus was that important that he had to give him at all costs, probably to save his own life. We see the scene of Optimus versus Lockdown, right? Lockdown completely owning Optimus, and at one point actually injecting him with his own sword right in his spark, which could have also been in a region of a future things of an infection, which I'll hold to that thought for another speculation. Bumblebee comes and rescues him, and then Cade also returns rescue. But it wasn't just that. It was the way Optimus was telling Bumblebee, I gave you an order. This is my fight. He's screaming with so much anger in his heart. He ends up getting released from the sword, And Optimus ends up killing Lockdown, only to at the very end to meet his creators, and that's where Age of Extinction leaves. Now let's move on to Transformers: The Last Night. The Optimus scene starts off with him floating into space, which we find out in a way where originally we thought he didn't make it. But we hear the same distress signal in his voice, in his radio, saying, you know, I send this message to my creators, leave planet Earth because I'm coming for you. He's floating into space, and we also get to see the sword and the cross, which I thought originally was going to be very important. Turned out it wasn't. Make sure you check out my Untold Story. I explain a little bit there. Then we get to see Optimus reawaken. He ends up, in a way, after his stylus mode, his sleep mode, landing on Cybertron. And when he gets to Cybertron, we hear this groan, this scary voice, and he's looking around in shock, and he says, "My world, what has happened to my world?" Well, in Dark of the Moon, Optimus did destroy it, but for some reason doesn't remember. Now, I don't know if that's because of the sword or a movie plot. I think that was significant. Again, I'll say that for another speculation. But then he comes and finds out, and he hears this voice, and it's, "Optimus Prime, I've been waiting for you. Come meet your maker," which we witness Quintessa. Optimus, again from Age of Extinction, walks in there with hatred in his heart, ready to annihilate, and says, "You are my creator, I will kill you." And then we see Quintessa's power. She ends up chaining Optimus and says, "How dare you strike your god?" And then she refers to Optimus as her perfect creation. Only to a witness we see is the red paint, which is an affection of Quintessa. Now, Quintessa educates Optimus of their history and why Optimus is so important, and basically referencing Earth as Unicron. Unicron, the Dark Lord, the ancient god of the hatred, the endgame of Transformers. Optimus Prime, also could have been referring to the legend exists as that. But when when Quintessa refers to Earth as Unicron, Optimus knows this is a big deal. And again, she starts brainwashing him. But as she's brainwashing him, she's educating him of the Guardian Knights of Iacon, these 12 knights that were, she refers to her as her knights, escaped with her staff. And Optimus Prime needs her staff to use the actual spark of Unicron to drain the core to, in a way, to the power ignition of Cybertron to restore his home. And she kept referencing her, or his home. Quintessa also provides the knowledge that she is the prime of life. Once Optimus is completely brainwashed, we see the Borns and the emerge of the evil Prime known as Nemesis Prime. The hatred in his heart throughout this, it's a perfect time for Quintessa to take control. Once Nemesis is now born, he actually flies himself into the depths of the ocean, where we find and we see the Knight's Tomb, the Knight ship. We learn about Merlin, and then that's where the staff is actually located at. Optimus Prime enters and says, "I've come for the staff." And Cade is so happy to see his friend. In a way, from Transformers Age of Extinction, Optimus Prime is a guardian. He is a guardian for Cade, and their bond is so significant. And the bond between Optimus and the trust that Cade has for Optimus, he convinces Vivian to hand over the staff to Optimus. And then that's when we witness the Bumblebee and Optimus Prime fight once he leaves. The ship starts rising from the depths of the ocean, and then that's where we see Nemesis Prime versus Bumblebee. And he's screaming, "I am Nemesis Prime. You are nothing." Actually owning Bumblebee. Bumblebee ended up holding his own, but Nemesis Prime too dark and too powerful. I almost wish we got to see it a lot more. The torturing of Quintessa and the brainwash that put it onto Optimus, converting him to Nemesis Prime, they didn't show it, but basically that would take a lot of power and hatred to take over the spark of Optimus Prime, even at a vulnerable state. Now, once he's getting ready to decapitate Bumblebee, that's when Bumblebee speaks and says, "I am Bumblebee, your oldest friend. I would lay down my life for you." And once Optimus hears Bumblebee speak, he says, "I have not heard your voice in Cybertron." And then we witness the infection of Optimus off of his face. And then that's when all chaos breaks loose. Megatron actually ends up, basically taking a cheap shot, grabs the staff, tells him he's weak, and basically Unicron, you couldn't even defeat Unicron, now I could do it, flies up into space. And that's when we see the Guardian Knights come up. And what's significant is they just attacked Optimus. They did not fly it from Megatron. I'll hold that for another speculation. But then we see Optimus accepting his defeat, accepting his beating. The Guardian Knights are destroying him. They're saying, "You trusted Quintessa, the great deceiver, the liar, the traitor." The result is death. And Optimus is willing to sacrifice himself again for his mistakes under his leadership. And as the Guardian Knight is getting ready to decapitate him, that's when we witness Cade Yeager and the birth and the emergence of Excalibur. And once Excalibur comes up, that's when all the Knights, with the Knight's Code and Knight's Armor, raise their sword to the heavens. Cade is now responsible. Cade tells Optimus that, you know, only you can make a Prime. All we got is one shot, one moment. I can't do this without you, Optimus. You're the leader. You're the hero. And then that's when we said, my brothers, I will never betray you again. And he does this heroic speech. And basically, the cosmic balance of the universe will unite us together. And basically, we were going to have to work together to stop Quintessa and save Earth and Cybertron. And he flies out all heroic. He ends up disappearing again, which is Optimus ends up doing a lot again in these live-action films. But then only to return the heroic way as possible, flying on Dragonstorm. The last Prime flying on a dragon was so epic, and as he's flying in, he goes right after Infernicus, who is actually holding Cybertron down. Quintessa now has the staff in her possession, and she's starting to do the actual drainage of the planet through the Stargate of Earth, right? She's draining the core of Unicron. As he flies out, he ends up owning Infernicus, and then he says the most legendary and epic thing, "Did you forget who I am?" No, we did not forget who you were, Optimus. But Vivian and Cade Yeager know that their trust for Optimus and trust for these Transformers, they go with Optimus, and Optimus leads the charge to save. Well, once they enter the ignition chamber, that's when the battle takes place. And when Quintessa is about to be, right before she does, she goes, "Nemesis, you traitor." And then he says, "Here's my friend, Bumblebee." Bumblebee ends up blowing her up as Vivian has the staff, and then she disappears and vanishes. Once they save Earth and save Cybertron, that's when, in a way, he makes this heroic speech that basically we have to work together and settle our differences, you know, rebuild our planet, and basically call this place Earth home, and that they are going to live here. In a way, it almost felt like Cybertron was going to be part of Earth. One side is Cybertron, one side is Earth. Some of the comics, in a way, do touch on that stuff. Once we hear that, Optimus has the staff, and if you recall, in my opinion, there were purple eyes in an Optimus Prime's thing. Real quick, significant blink before we see Quintessa as a human and talks about Unicron. It was a big, giant cliffhanger. So if you think about it, he's got the Matrix of Leadership, he's got the sword, he's got the staff, he's got the seed. And that's where Transformers The Last Knight ends. So there you guys go. I hope you enjoyed that, the Prophesied 13th Prime of the live-action Origins movie universe, known as my hero, Optimus Prime. I got a couple of shout-outs to give. I want to give a shout-out to Dr. Life 7829, Vince Mondragon's second account, Ryda Styles 98, Lord Darko, Steven Samburai, Dread Nation, and Game Tech 123, Matt Gamer, and TF Orion Prime. Thank you so much. They did the hashtag notification squad. They get a shout out. I also want to give a special shout out to Devin Prime. Devin Prime made me this awesome custom made little art design of Alpha Trion with the hashtag Redemption series. Oh my gosh, it looks so beautiful. Devin, you do a phenomenal job, and IDW Comic needs to hire you. I also want to give a shout out to TF Orion Packs for making me this amazing intro on Instagram. Make sure to go give them a follow. I'm going to leave a little bit at the end so you guys can check it out. To my subscribers, I love you so much. Thank you so much for joining my speculation. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter at Prime Speculator, follow me on Instagram at Last Prime Speculator. Again, my subscribers, I love you so much. Thank you so much for the constant support. I'm going to do another poll, so what video you want to see next. This is LPS, bringing you another Redemption series. Peace.